What's one of the best roles you've ever had and why?
I think one of the best roles I've ever had was when I was given the opportunity to be finance director for the London 2012 Games. Um, it's a role that really came out of the blue, and really I knew it was coming up with regards to the organisation I was working at the time, and I knew I could actually have a significant impact within that particular team by applying for it. So I reached out to the deputy chairman at the time, and the job wasn't advertised at that moment in time, but I reached out to him and I said, when you do create a job for London 2012, particularly in the finance side of things, I'd like to be considered for one of those particular roles, please. And he said, why? And I said, well, I really do want to make a difference with regards to what our activation, what our sponsorship could actually achieve with regards to the values of the games. And never really thought much of it, to be fair. And then a few weeks later, he gave me a call and he said, will you come down and have a chat? We think we'd like to create a role for you with regards to the London 2012 Games, in particular with regards to supporting our corporate partners in the finance arena. So fast forward to the decision, I got the job. It was a 5-year tenure because effectively I was involved with the games. As soon as they were announced, we became the first tier 1 partner for London 2012. And then I had literally 5 years, 3 years up to the games themselves, getting things ready from a finance point of view, ensuring that all of the teams that were coming into the London 2012, the Paralympics and the Olympics, had sufficient finance, had ensured that they actually got the vehicles to pay for everything that they needed when they came into London, from food to sports equipment to accommodation to transportation, and also was responsible for all of the payments that were accepted through London 2012, the actual Olympics and the Paralympics as well. It was 5 years of incredible joy, very, very, very hard work, long hours, 20-hour days on some occasions, whereby we had to work until the job actually got finished on that particular day. But I put together a team of incredible people around me that really gave me the confidence, effectively, to ensure that we could actually deliver on the mission, which was really to become the first commercial partner of any Olympic Games to make an actual return on investment, which we actually did. After a 5-year period of time, we actually made a profit out of the games, would you believe it, which was the first in Olympic and Paralympic history. So I would say that really is the pinnacle of my career. It was just 5 years of just, as I say, incredible joy, hard work, lots of agonizing decisions that had to be made very quickly, but we made them and we moved forward, and effectively at the end of the day we had an amazing outcome.
What's the biggest thing you've done to create or improve social impact?
I've got many examples, but I'll give you one with one of our international charities that I'm a part of. I'm a part of a great organization called the She Foundation, which stands for Sustainable Health and Education. And as a consequence of that particular charity, we build schools across the world in developing parts of the globe, whereby there are no educational establishments. And we had a project to build a school in a developing part of Kenya called the School Under the Tree, because when we officially scoped this particular project, there was no education within the area, and effectively the young children of that particular region were just being educated as best they possibly can under a tree in the middle of a savannah, in 30+ degrees of heat. Really no resources and materials for them to do anything, and being self-taught by the local tribes people. So if we fast forward 5-6 years now, we've now been working with the community and our corporate partner within that area. And we've built a school which really is in line with what the community asked for, which is a Maasai school built with Maasai values. It has a Maasai centre in it for the tourists to actually come and see the Maasai tribe in all of their glory. And also it has a health and wellbeing centre in for mothers and children from the point of view, from a healthcare point of view, which is absolutely incredible. We actually focused on the sustainability of the actual school itself, and we built water systems and solar systems within the school itself to sustain itself. And then also, obviously going back to the school which is now built, we can actually see the impact that it's actually had on the community, which has been remarkable. Obviously the children go to school on a regular basis, the community are involved in it as well. It's now starting to create income from the point of view that it now creates income from tourists that come into the area that are invited into the school, but are invited actually in to see the Maasai skills and the Maasai culture in all of its glory. The incomes that are generated from that part of the social enterprise are then basically transferred back into the school for the maintenance and the upkeep of the actual building and the payment of salaries for the teachers as well. So I think that is a great example of what a lot of people involved in the SHE organization, including a lot of organizations out in Kenya, coming together and collaborating the way that we have, and listening really to what the requirements of the community asked for, and delivering on those has actually led to an incredible success story in Kenya.
Can you share some key milestones or proudest moments in your career?
I've got a number of milestones in the career that I'm really, really proud of. I think the first milestone in my career really was basically helping support one of my sons really with his passion for IT. My son was around about 12 years of age at the time, and he's always been passionate about IT since the age of 5. And his mission in life was to actually, he came to me in a very early stage when he was about 10 years of age. He said, "Dad, I want to use computer science to help save the world," which was quite an interesting sort of remark to get from a 10-year-old. But I knew he was passionate about achieving that goal. And he said, "Dad," he said, "I've always loved what Apple and what all the organizations are doing in Silicon Valley. And I'd really like to go and work for Apple one day. Can you help me in any shape or form make that dream come true?" Well, I went away and gave it some thought, and I thought, well, there's really no harm in reaching out to organizations such as Apple and Facebook and Google, who are actually just effectively coming into their growth spurt at that particular time. So I actually called Apple up in Cupertino, and I eventually got through multiple gatekeepers to somebody that was in charge of their marketing and business development. And I said, "Listen, I've got a young gentleman here who's 10 years of age, 11 years of age now, and he's passionate about coming to work for you in the future. He's an amazing computer whiz kid, and you really need to see him. And he'd love to come out and spend some time with you and effectively see what you're all about." Now, initially, Apple basically said, "Well, we've never had a request like that before, but leave it with us." And they came back and said no, which was understandable. But a couple of weeks after the no decision, they actually emailed me and said, "We've changed our mind." So long story short, we actually went and spent 2 weeks in Silicon Valley. We spent some great time with Apple. We actually went over to Facebook. We went to Intel, Google. It really transforms what Lewis's thoughts processes were about computer science and how it could actually help support the world going forward in a positive point of view. So if we fast forward to today, Lewis is now a computer scientist. He's 34 years of age, got a Bachelor of Sciences and Masters in Computer Science. He's now effectively a director of a company that's helping parents, teachers, and young people around Great Britain effectively help them gateway content and social media to their mobile phones, protecting children from seeing stuff they shouldn't see. Plus, he's developed an app which is saving hundreds of lives in Africa from snake bites, which I could talk about for hours on end, Ellie. Maybe that's another conversation for another day. So that's really was a key milestone in my career, although it's not directly involved in my career. It is my children are so important to me with regards to where they want to go in their lives. That was really a key milestone, because I knew through my connections and through me picking the phone up that I could actually help somebody get to the next stage of where they wanted to be. I think another milestone really was in 2023, when Her late Majesty Queen Elizabeth II actually honoured me with an OBE, which is an ordinary member of the British Empire, for my services to charity over the last 30 plus years. She was basically recognising the service that I'd given to the third sector, and at that stage I'd raised just short of £35 million for the charities that I've supported over that period of time. And it was a great honour for me to actually receive that particular investiture at Buckingham Palace with the late Queen. And she said to me, which always stays with me, she said, the reason that you're getting this particular honour is to actually go out and spread the word about what you're doing, how you're doing it, and help other people achieve what you've achieved in your 35 career in the third sector. It's there effectively to amplify your voice and to actually spread good to as many people as you can around the United Kingdom and the Commonwealth. And I've never forgotten that. So that really that gave me really the catalyst to go forward and do even more than what I was doing in the third sector at that stage. So they're two key milestones in my career that really stand out, to be fair.
What's one project or piece of work that taught you a big lesson about impact, and what did you take from it?
The one project that's basically made a considerable impact and also has taught me an awful lot of lessons was about 5 years ago. Again, I was sitting down having a conversation with one of my lads, one of my sons, and they're quite happy for me to talk about this. This is a mental health situation, and one of my sons was suffering very badly with his mental health at the time, and we sat down and we had a chat about things, and he basically said that, you know, if we were having a conversation about where he got to with his mental health at the time, if we started talking quite openly about it a lot earlier in his life, maybe, just maybe, he may have not got to the state of where he was at that time, which is quite a serious situation that he was in. And whether we'd had more open conversations about his mental health when he was a little bit younger. So both Lewis and myself at the time said, well, why don't we try and help those young people and those parents connect and have those conversations earlier on? So hopefully going forward in the future, they may not get to where Lewis was in at that particular time. Because effectively, when an individual goes through a mental health journey, it is really most lonely journey one can take. And when you feel that you're on your own, that's really when you're most vulnerable. So Lewis and I came up with an idea whereby we would actually connect with young people through storytelling and adventure. And we felt that the storytelling element was a great way, particularly for young 5 to 11-year-olds, effectively to engage in a conversation with mums and dads and carers and teachers. And also from 11 to 18-year-olds, we were going to do that through comic book. So we decided to do two areas. We decided to write a book about young people from 5 to 11. And then for 11 to 18-year-olds, we actually engaged in putting it together a comic around an adventure, which I got involved with at that particular time. I decided at that stage that I wanted to row the Atlantic solo. And Lewis knows my portfolio of adventures around the world, because I've adventured very, very successfully across the globe in the last 40 years, and it's something that I've always wanted to do because my dad went to sea and I went to sea with him when I was a youngster, and I just had an absolute mere passion to jump in a rowboat on my own and row across the Atlantic solo. So hence the reason the campaign was formed, and it was called the Boat of Hope. And it involved mixing storytelling with adventure to actually engage young people that anything was possible if you surround yourself with incredible people. And also by coming and joining the journey of my adventure through a story, through an amazing storybook we put together called Bernie and Boaty, which basically involved a 7-year-old young sailor meeting this boat out of the blue and then becoming great friends, and then rowing across the Atlantic with lots of ups and downs across the way, and then coming out the other end with a huge group of friends because of the actual the experiences that they had. And subsequently we did that for a comic as well, which we engaged with Marvel Comics, and they produced an incredible comic for us for 11 to 18-year-olds. I could talk about the Boat of Hope for hours on end, but it was a 3-year campaign which involved engaging thousands of school children around the United Kingdom with one of my corporate partners, who actually came on board with me, that engaged with over 500 schools around the United Kingdom, thousands of students that got involved in the project. And they were involved in putting a mural together about how they felt, what hope meant to them. And effectively all of that content went onto a massive mural, which was then wrapped around my ocean-going boat, which went across the Atlantic Ocean and was seen by over 950 million people around the world. The book for 5 to 11 years became a #1 Amazon #1 bestseller, and then was made into a cartoon, which was voiced by Melanie C from the Spice Girls. She became me, Bernie, a young Bernie, and we had another amazing actor, effectively the other voices as well. Sasha Diane did the other voices. Some of the lessons that I learned really sort of from that particular project was that things can sometimes go really disastrously wrong, and sadly when I rowed across the Atlantic, it took me over 3.5 months to get across the Atlantic, and I went through some of the worst weather in the Atlantic ever in its history. I went through 17 Atlantic storms and broke my leg, and went through awful lots of other issues, and there really was a number of near-death experiences that I actually endured during that particular journey. And even when things were going badly wrong, which they did, the boat was battered to bits, and I lost batteries, and I lost my steering, and the boat was partially sinking in the middle of the Atlantic in 50-foot waves. I still thought that there was lessons to be learned with regards to my personal resilience, and also effectively to reflect back at that time when I thought I was going to die, on how grateful and thankful I was for the people that I had in my life and the experience that I'd shared. And really, even in those, sort of times of doom, there was also hope, and there was also learning that I took from that. And thankfully, I obviously came out the other side of that particular experience a lot stronger for it, and a lot more resilient, and also thankful for what I have in my life. It really was like a near-death experience that really sort of really reinvigorated my yearning for life and helping other people. So hopefully that answers that question as best I can.
What's a piece of strategic advice you found yourself giving more than once?
Really, the most important strategic advice I continue to give to this very day is to listen very, very carefully to what everybody has to say, and then reflect. Take time effectively to listen again without interruption. Listen to what the individual has to say, whether you agree, disagree or with that advice or those words or not. It's so important to really actively listen to what that individual is saying, to take that on board, and then not to react at that moment in time once you've actually heard what that individual has to say. So it's really important to take a time out. I usually say to folks, take 24 hours or so just to reflect on what you've heard, which obviously will spurn its own thoughts and questions. And also it will take a lot of emotion out of the reaction that you had initially when you're having that conversation with that individual. It will have an opportunity for you to actually take the emotional content away from it, and then think about the actual responses to that conversation in a more rational thinking way. Everybody in the world, regardless of who you are, is entitled to what they think and how they feel. And we all think and feel very, very differently. And I think really what the amazing thing is when you're actually talking to anybody in any negotiations to find the middle ground. And the only way that you can actually do that is actually see it from their point of view. So I'll give you this little piece of advice for that. When I started my corporate career in corporate banking, as a graduate, I ended up in a very small branch of this banking group, and this was some 40 plus years ago, by the way, when computers and mobile phones and facsimiles weren't even invented. And when I went in to see my manager for the first day, he said, "Hollywood," he said, "nobody sells anything to anybody in this branch. I don't want to see you actually selling any of our products to any of our customers ever." And I thought, oh, that's unusual. I thought we all had performance targets to achieve, even 40 years ago. And he said, "Yes, we do, but we will actually outperform anybody by listening to our customers and then effectively giving them what they need." And he said, "What I'm going to give you now is I'm going to give you a little pair of shoes." It was a little brooch. It was a little gold brooch, two little pair, it was a pair of shoes. And he said, "I want you to put that on your lapel." And I said, "I want you to think every time a customer comes in to see us, I want you to put yourself in the customer's shoes every single time and think how a customer thinks, feel how a customer feels. And from that, you will then effectively gain the trust and respect of our customer, who will then tell you what they need, whether they need a mortgage, whether they need an insurance policy, whatever the case may be." And do you know what? That simple piece of advice has actually followed me through all my 40 plus years within my career. I always put myself in the shoes of an individual, and I never, ever, ever sell anything to anybody. I listen to see how I can help them. And by doing that, I'm starting to create that particular relationship with that individual. And then maybe, just maybe, they may be able to help and support me in one of my asks, maybe now or in the future. And that has boded so well for me over the last 40 years.
Who or what inspires your approach to creating impact through your work?
Well, there's really only one person I can mention, to be fair. Again, it goes back really, I have to go back, gosh, what is it now? I have to go back 43 years for this, Ellie. It's when my mum was passing. My mum was the greatest giver of time and resource that I've ever known in my life. And she never had anything, believe it or not. We were quite poor as a family. Well, poor from a material point of view. We were actually extremely rich in love and compassion and giving. And when Mum was passing, she said to me, she said, "Love, nobody ever became poor by giving." And I didn't really understand what she meant, to be fair. She was a big fan of Mother Teresa, because that's a Mother Teresa phrase. But she gave everything away. She said, "The more that you give, the more that you'll receive. And give everything away. Give all your money, all your time, and you'll be the happiest person on the planet." And that is proven to be absolutely correct. I've been very fortunate in my career that I had the ability to give my money away to certain people and certain charities that have actually had an impact in an incredible way. And that's really given me so much joy and so much love in return that no balance check in the world could ever repay me for that. So if you are in a position to give your resources away, and the most incredible resource that you can give to anybody is time, because we all get 365 days in a year and 60 minutes in an hour. We all get the same amount of time, but it's really what you do with that time that really, really matters. What difference can you make today to the life of somebody else by giving them some time, either to listen, either to actually help and support them in whatever way that is, or to give them a piece of advice, maybe become a mentor, maybe go and help and support a charity, maybe help one of your family, etc., etc. So the greatest piece of advice I was given, which I say I live by every single day, is what Mum said to me when she was passing, and now I understand what she meant by nobody became poor by giving, and there we are.
What is the thing that brings you the most work joy?
Really simply, seeing a smile be put on somebody's face and seeing the joy from our interactions. So, I'm very much into happiness. There was an incredible comedian that touched me in his life that I played a small part of when I was a child, and he had a song called Happiness, and it was by a guy called Sir Kenneth Dodd. A lot of older people actually understand that particular comedian, but he said happiness is the key to life and longevity, and by making somebody feel happy really is the key to everything in the world. If you can put a smile on somebody's face, it means you've brought joy to them at that particular moment.
What's your favourite quote that you'd like us to include, and why?
There's an actual quote that I actually put together that I really, really, really love, and it's called the quote is, "Wisdom is the recipe of success," and it's as simple as that. If you possess wisdom, don't keep it to yourself. Share that wisdom with as many people as you possibly can. Believe it or not, share it with a competitor, because within the arena, the third sector arena, lots of charities are actually chasing after certain amounts of funding in the same area, and by sharing the wisdom that we've obtained and I've obtained within that particular charity or sector, we've been able to collaborate with rivals that effectively are going after the same money. But if we have actually joined together and put a bid together jointly with our strengths and their strengths, we've actually secured the funding that neither of us would have actually secured if we'd actually put in separate bids. So share your wisdom. Your wisdom is like a superpower, and it's your duty effectively to share that with as many people as you possibly can. Don't take it to the grave with you, because it can't be activated when you're not here. So if you have the opportunity to share the wisdom that you've gained in your life, in your career, please go to anybody and give it free of charge. I lecture and I give my inspirational talks around the United Kingdom and the world for nothing. I don't charge a penny, because I want my wisdom to be cascaded to as many people as possible for the cheapest amount of value that actually anybody can come to me with. You don't have to pay a penny to listen to what I have to say, but if you gain some value from that, that's the biggest present I can have from anybody.